Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Ben sent me a note out of Minnesota, and stories like this pop up from time to time, and it's shameful because I am an attorney. So when I hear a story about an attorney going to prison for doing something bad as an attorney, I look at that and go, wow, that's just too bad. But you got to throw the book, like I said before, at attorneys, police officers, or judges. Anybody who's in the field of law, when they break the law, they need to pay. So the man's getting 16 months in prison, and he's a St. Paul lawyer who plotted to recruit patients in an effort to dupe auto insurance companies. Kind of complicated, but work with me here. From the Star Tribune, and Paul Walsh wrote this, the attorney eroded the public trust that people have in lawyers and the legal system. And trust me, we can't afford to have that trust eroded because it's not exactly the deepest trust there is. A longtime St. Paul personal injury attorney is going to prison for more than a year for participating in a multi-year scheme to recruit chiropractic patients that duped auto insurance companies into covering health care services. The attorney is 52 years old. 52 years old. Was sentenced Tuesday in U.S. District Court in Minneapolis to a 16-month term after pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit health care fraud under Minnesota's no-fault insurance law, which requires insurance companies to cover clients' medical expenses regardless of who's to blame for a crash. And we've got something similar here in Michigan. Along with prison time, he's ordered to serve a year under court supervision. Upon his release, he'll also be fined $10,000 and has to pay $22,000 in restitution. You have no idea how happy this makes the insurance company. I don't know the insurance companies get quoted in the story, but I assure you they're happy because at every insurance company is at least one adjuster who goes, I know we're being ripped off. I know we're being ripped off. Guess what? Not only are you right, but the guy's going to prison and he's paying some of the money back. The scheme that they uncovered began in 2015, ran through 2021, according to prosecutors. According to the charging documents, he would be hired to represent an illegally recruited chiropractic patient in that person's threat to sue an auto insurance company. They used runners, as they were called, who were paid $300 by the attorney for each recruited patient who had actual crash injuries and was not at fault and attended multiple chiropractic visits, according to the prosecution, outlining this in their court filings. And so when you find attorneys paying finder's fees for clients, it's going to be a problem. Many states would just say that's out and out illegal, but it sounds unethical at the very least. In total, according to prosecutors, the man's scheme attempted to cheat insurance companies out of nearly $60,000 and succeeded in getting $22,000. So that's why they used that number of $22,000 for restitution. They're saying that's how much money the guy made that we can show. By using his status as a lawyer to commit fraud, he eroded the public trust that people have in lawyers and the legal system, prosecutors said in a filing ahead of sentencing. The attorney graduated from St. Paul's William Mitchell College of Law in 1995 and founded his personal injury law firm in 2000, according to their website. So he graduated law school about 4 years after I did. State's Lawyers Professional Responsibility Board that oversees attorneys in Minnesota filed a disciplinary action against him in 2021 related to the fraud allegations. Board director there said Wednesday that the attorney has agreed to being disbarred. He has consented to it. That's pending before the state Supreme Court. His attorney, yes, the attorney's got an attorney, told the court in late February that his client would surrender his license and realize that his career as a lawyer is over. Now, here's the thing. So if you commit insurance fraud and get caught and you plead guilty, you're done. You're going to prison. That's what's happening here. So 16 months in prison. The man was a lawyer at one point in time, and I've described the process to become a lawyer. It ain't easy, okay? So you become a lawyer, you're practicing law, you're a member in good standing, as they say, and you get in trouble with the law. So the licensing board that oversees the licenses recognizes, oh, this guy's in trouble with the law. Now, of course, before he's convicted of anything, it's just an accusation. He, like everybody else, is innocent unless and until proven guilty. But he's pleaded guilty. So that's no longer an argument. He's guilty. He admits it. So telling the court that he'll surrender his license, and that's fine. The question is whether he could have even gotten his license back at all. And we don't know that because I've heard of people who got in trouble with the law, spent time in prison, and then somehow got out and may have taken them a long time. Depends on what they were charged with and so on. It's extremely difficult to get it back, especially if you've been convicted of a felony and spent time in prison. But that, I think, is really the only question that the Supreme Court's got, because the state Supreme Courts, as I mentioned before, oversee the courts of the state that they're in, as well as the bar associations, which is the attorneys in that state, are all governed and regulated by, in essence, the state Supreme Court. So if somebody comes before them and says, I'm surrendering my license, I'm not going to practice law anymore, I'm surrendering my license. What does that really mean in the long term? Because it looks like there are people here who are suggesting that not only should he not practice law in the future ever again, but that he should be barred from doing so. And if you simply surrender your license and go, I'm stepping away from this, I'm willfully surrendering my license, is that the same as the state Supreme Court saying, we're going to take your license away for good? And there might be a distinction there. I know you're saying, Steve, lawyers make these kinds of distinctions? Yeah, where have you been? Yes, of course they do. And so that's, I suspect, the only concern here. And so when the state Supreme Court hears somebody voluntarily surrendered their license, does that mean what we think it means? And so the state Supreme Court very well might say, well, thank you for surrendering your license, but just to let you know, we are going to say that you cannot practice law again, ever. Ever. They can say that. They can say that. Now, the question is whether they'll actually come out and say that or they'll feel the need to say that. I don't know. It might just be that the Supreme Court's got so much stuff on their docket that underneath a big pile of paper, you know, here's the Supreme Court docket, okay? And this guy's case is right about there. So that very well could be what happens here. I don't know. But the scary part here is he's going to prison for 16 months. And I know that a lot of people will go, okay, it's interesting, and they'll move on to the next video and go watch cats falling asleep on the backs of couches and so on. Or donkey gymnastics is always a good one. But here's the scary part. This is over $22,000. $22,000. So they're alleging that the man made $22,000. He got caught, got convicted, pled guilty, and sentenced to 16 months in prison. Now, I've heard of people getting less time for more money. I've also heard people getting less time for things that seemed, more egregious than this. So I wonder if in the next 16 months, as he's cooling his heels in that cell block, if he's going to actually do the math on it and go, wow, I'm in here for 16 months because I wanted to get $22,000 illegally. So that's the calculus, as we say. But it's a crazy story. But I've heard of stories like this in other states, and it often has to do with how easy it is to file initial claims under your state's insurance law. And I know that there's some other states out there where they say that if you are in an accident and you need a certain amount of medical treatment, if it's below a certain threshold, the insurance companies just basically got to pay it. They just pay it. And so people figure that out and they go, oh, so a lot of people don't know this. So if I encounter somebody who's been in an accident and I explain to them very, very quickly how they can get that basic amount of money there, and it's a result of one of the rules of the universe I've told you about, and that is when there's money on the table, the person who put it there is at the table, the person who is entitled to it might be at the table, but all kinds of other people look at the table and go, ooh, look at that money. Next thing you know, people come out of the woodwork all wanting to get their piece of that. So if you make the money too easy to get, it causes things like this. So apparently this has to do with how much money somebody who's in an accident might be entitled to get to compensate them for chiropractic help. And the story I heard out of the other state was also chiropractic help. And it's not that chiropractors are doing anything wrong, it's just that they happen to be part of the equation. And so the law says that if you get in an accident, you hurt your back, you go see a chiropractor, up to this amount of money will, in essence, be paid without too much investigation. And so if an attorney can insert himself in there, he might be able to get himself a third. And that could very well be what was happening here. So 16 months in prison for St. Paul lawyer who plotted to recruit patients in an effort to dupe auto insurers. And as you might guess, part of the story that catches people's attention is the fact that he was paying runners $300 a pop to get him clients. And I often get asked, Steve, obviously you would never do such a thing, but are you aware of such a thing happening in and around you, in any of the circles you travel? And I can tell you, yes, I've been approached by people who said, Steve, I can get you cases. Now, I've had people approach me via email who say, through marketing, I can help you get cases. There's nothing wrong with marketing. But I've actually had someone come to me and say, Steve, I can get you cases. What will you pay me per case? And I go, nothing. I won't pay you anything. I don't need you to get me cases, and I don't want to get involved in anything like that. And they go, but you understand, I can get you cases. And it's like, I don't want to know. That's not how I get cases. And besides that, I can't pay you money to get me cases. It's unethical. And so I actually had a guy once who was in my office, this is years ago, picked up a stack of my cards off the front desk. And he goes, watch. He goes, I'm going to get you cases. And he goes, just you watch, and then we'll talk. And I reached over, and I took my cards out of his hand. I said, no, you are not going to do that. Don't get me cases, okay? And I assume he got my message because he never tried to get me cases. But there are people out there who think that they can get themselves inserted in these situations and make some money. So there you go. Ben, thanks for sending it from the Star Tribune. Paul Walsh wrote it. Questions, comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Words can express true feelings, true emotions, and wisdom. It is up to you to use them wisely. Choose your words carefully and express them peacefully.